Welcome to the AG45 Soul Aligned Strategy Podcast, where business meets purpose, growth feels good, and results meet enjoyment. Hosted by Katherine Breuss, CEO and founder of AG45, this show is built on 30 years of hands-on experience across 4 countries, 3 businesses, and 1 incredible life raising 4 children. Katherine brings a rare whole-person perspective to business, strategy, and leadership. This podcast is for business owners ready to stop spinning, start aligning, and build a business that delivers real value while creating a life that actually feels like yours. At the end of the day, you are the engine behind it all. And when you're clear and aligned, everything moves with purpose. It starts with you. Let's dive in.
Sandra, welcome to the AG45 Soul Line Strategy Podcast. It is a real pleasure to have you here. And I want to introduce to the audience listening, this is Sandra Dempsey. She has a business called Source 10, but I want to pass it over to her to tell us about who she is and also her business before we get into the conversation. So Sandra, I'm going to pass it over to you to just tell us who you are and tell us about your business.
Thank you so much, Katherine. And well, what a privilege to be part of your space. And I was even thinking when you bring the word soul into the business world, that's already a game changer. So thank you so much for doing this and for allowing the space to entrepreneurs and women like me to come and talk to you. So, I'm originally from Mexico, and I moved to the United States in 2002 as I married an American that I met at the beach in Mexico. So it's like a love story. We're here together still. Now we have 3 kids, 21, 18, and 15. And even though my background in Mexico is being an attorney, that's the degree I got when I moved to the United States. Your law degree is not valid, so you had to pretty much either reinvent yourself or start something new. And I reinvented myself, joining the media and communications world, which I always loved and adored. And it was interesting because I just, it kind of came to me by accident. And I think that has to do with the alignment of the soul, right? I mean, when you want something so deeply, it comes to you. And I feel like that was the beginning of the journey we're in right now, which is a video production agency. We focus on storytelling and cinematic video content, and we help companies and organizations to tell their message with heart and love, and creating really beautiful content for them to be able to leverage the work that they do through video content.
I love it. I love that you said, when you connect with the soul, it just becomes easy, and that's what I cannot even imagine. Well, actually I can, because I kind of had to reinvent myself a bit, but to start all over, coming from Mexico, and you have a law degree, and then having to start all over and start again, that I would imagine took a lot of, really actually being aligned with your soul to even get through something like that.
Yeah, I think, when you had to start from scratch, and we know professionally you don't, right? Because you have acquired a lot of knowledge through your college degree. And I used to have a law firm back in Mexico. So I had some of that. But at the end of the day, your network is everything, right? So when you come to a new country and you don't know anybody, and you have to start creating new relationships, new friendships. So at least you kind of like understand the culture to begin with, right? I mean, you come, it's a new place, you don't even know how business is on here. And I mean, you can assume, right? But deeply, you just don't know. So I will say part of the great success that we have had at Source 10, and professionally, is the fact that I was able to build a really strong network once I get out of the house and I start meeting people. And people in Milwaukee are very friendly and very nice. So that has been a very nice journey of just meeting people and now being able to build what we had. Thank you to the opportunities that we have received, right, from the people that we have met along the way.
That's really cool. I will actually echo that in terms of people in Milwaukee are very friendly, because I am just new back. I mean, I lived here until I was 9, but just moved back 2 years ago. And I do think there's something really special about Milwaukee or even Wisconsin people and
Yes.
how friendly they are. It's like no other. It's
Hmm.
really initially when I first moved back and people were so nice, my first reaction internally, I was thinking, what do they want from me? Why are they being so nice? They must want something from me. And then I realized I was like, oh no, actually I'm in Wisconsin. This is how they are.
Right. And I think when we live in Wisconsin, we take it for granted.
Yes.
Right. I mean, then you go somewhere else and like, oh, it's not the same. So here we feel like, you can talk to anybody that you want, right? I mean, will that take into something different? Who knows? But I mean, I think everybody is open to talk. I mean, when you approach them, nicely as well.
Yeah, that's very true. Um, so Soul Aligned. So I know, like, the audience has heard me talk about Soul Aligned a lot. And, for us, simply, it's really understanding who you are at such a core level and then aligning that and what you want to everything you do. So, how, Sandra, would you describe Soul Aligned and then the impact that has had either positively or negatively, depending on how aligned you were at the time?
Yeah, and let me see, can give you a little bit of context, and it's a bit of a story, right? I mean, and a little bit of background as well. Since I was a child, I always liked producing shows. Like I would produce, like a dancing show with my cousins at home, and I would be, setting up the choreography and getting the microphones, and it was just something I love doing when I was a kid. I always want to be like a host of a news, show. Like I always wanted to be on camera. But somehow that never happened. I ended up going to law school, and something that I realized later, like I should have not done because I really never really enjoyed that. And even at that time, when I was choosing between law school and something else, graphic design was the other one. But again, I don't think I was very aligned to my soul at the moment, and I went
Mm.
for the law degree rather than going for the graphic design. So I feel like that decision haunted me for a while because I was never being an attorney. I was never happy being an attorney. So when I moved to the United States, well, here we are. I can align to my soul now because my law degree doesn't even, work here. So I can either pursue that career or I can shift gears. So for a little bit, I was home with the kids. And then this opportunity out of nowhere, right? Talking about building a network. One of my kids' friend's father, he was a manager at ESPN. So he came and asked me, hey, do you know someone who may want to work at our ESPN Deportes station who speaks Spanish? And I was like, I don't know. Let me think about it. And then my husband is like, hey, why don't you do it? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, actually, well, why not? Right. Like, I mean, I didn't think about myself at all, right? Because I mean, communications, sports, right? Like, I just didn't think about it. But then when my husband said, I'm like, oh, maybe I should talk to him about it. So I talked to him about it, and next month, a month later, I was hired, and that was a true joy to work for that company. My manager, he was amazing, and he gave me this opportunity. Right, it's my first job in the U.S., and I learned how much I love communications, and I knew like that's something I wanted to do since I was a kid. And all of a sudden, right, this opportunity out of nowhere came. And I'm working at ESPN Radio, and while I was there, then someone saw me from Telemundo. They asked me if I would go to Telemundo. I made the choice to go to Telemundo, start working there. And that job was a little more strictly sales, whereas at radio is just beautiful. There's a lot of grassroots things that happen there. Radio is just a beautiful thing. Even though some people may think that's kind of like old style, I just feel like there is so much beauty to the radio because you're so close to the community. And TV is a little different. And when I went to Telemundo, I was to be only a sales rep, which was a little boring to me because I'm more creative and I like to do more things than one. So to have only one job, which was sales, was not really cutting it for me. So I decided to call a friend and ask him if we wanted to do like this travel blog or video blog. So we decided to get out there and start filming ourselves, going to different places and locations in the Milwaukee area, talking about these experiences, right? I mean, like the Cat Cafe or like ice skating, rock climbing, and we will do it in Spanish to really attract more Latinos to these spaces and events. And I did that because I will go to these spaces and I wouldn't see a lot of Latinos at the time. So I'm like, where are they? So I feel like nobody was really inviting them or welcoming them. So I just took it onto this idea with my friend, like, let's be the ambassadors of Latinos out there. And we produce about 25 video vlogs showcasing Milwaukee. And at that point, that was a hobby that you have no idea, Catherine. Like when you talk about soul alignment, that video vlog for me was it. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm in my element. I cannot think of anything else. I feel like I'm 15 years old, when I was already like 40 something. So it was like this new life that I got to experience just by doing this. I was communicating, I was engaging with people. We were actually opening opportunities for the community, right? I mean, to experience things that they haven't experienced before. So there was a lot of things that kind of happened when I was doing the travel vlogs. So a little bit later, Telemundo decides to terminate my employment because they thought that my travel blog was a conflict of interest with the organization. So I left Telemundo, and I'm still in love with video. And I'm like, oh my God, like this feels so good. Like I can be filming, we can be producing, we can be doing all of this. And there is, the time just flies. I cannot think of anything else but just what we're doing. And I think when you talk about what does soul alignment means, I feel like that's what it is, right? I mean, you are in the zone, you don't think of anything else, you are so into it, you don't even know what time it is, you don't care what time it is, and you just do everything you can to make that moment even better. So to me, that was a sign that video production was part of my soul alignment. And very, very coincidentally, the day that I was let go of my job, I met a director of photography who actually, he was hired to film one of our video vlogs. I met him that day, and so far he became the first employee of my company. And talk about soul alignment again, right? I mean, like out of nowhere, the day I'm let go of my other job, I meet a person that has become a very, very important piece for Source 10 to be what it is today. I mean, he brings the quality and all the things that we do at Source 10 when it comes to the technicalities of the industry. He's the one in charge of that. A very young man, wonderful wonderfully talented. I mean, just an incredible journey. And I think at that point, as I said, right, it was the video vlogs and then finding him and then founding Source 10. Like, I feel like there was so much soul alignment in each one of these things because, as you say, right, it seemed easy. It happened naturally. I wasn't forcing it. Like, where do I find this guy? What, like everything just kind of like came in my hands. And I'm glad I was able to see it, right? Because sometimes you're so caught up into like, I gotta find a job or I gotta do this, I gotta do that, then you may miss the opportunity. And I don't know if that answered the question. It was a long answer for one question.
I thought it was great. I mean, first of all, I love so much of what you said. And what's so interesting to me is that the law degree was such a misalignment. And the universe, see, I find that the universe pushes us to where we're supposed to go. And sometimes we listen, sometimes we don't. And then the universe will just push harder, and sometimes forces us to follow our soul. And so it's interesting is like you had to move to a whole new country, and then it like, I mean, what's interesting to me is whether or not, and who knows, but if you'd stayed in Mexico, whether this ever would have happened. But it took you going into probably, it was hard transition. There's probably excitement as well. But I mean, going to a whole new country to start your journey of soul alignment.
It did. And I feel like, to your point, if I was in Mexico, I don't think I'll be doing what I'm doing now. It would have been really scary, right? I mean, because I already have a degree. That's kind of like what I was programmed to be or to do. And, right? I mean, and I think that's the biggest problem that we have as a society, right? We try to fit in the box for whatever the reason that doesn't matter to the soul, but it matters to society. And sometimes we pay attention to that rather than what is your soul telling you. And to me, I mean, missing that, as I said earlier, not going in the graphic design, career, like it's one of those things that I really regret greatly. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, my journey was my journey, right? I mean, and at the end of the day, when I track back every single step that I took to get to the point where I met my husband at the beach, if I wasn't an attorney, I don't think I would have met him either, right? So that's just how the universe works in very mysterious ways. And as you get older, you understand that there is a purpose for the things that matter, the things that you didn't like, the things that you loved, and the things that you didn't expect. I mean, and there is this, I love the connect the dots term, because it is very true. It's hard to connect them as you're going through them. But then you look back, I'm like, oh, every single dot was there for a reason. It makes perfect sense. And looking at those dots with more compassion in the moment, I feel like that's what can make a big difference.
Yes, I love that too, because not everything is as it seems.
Correct.
That's whenever
Uh-huh.
something's going on in the moment and it may seem so challenging and you may be like, why is this happening to me? It may seem like this is the most horrible thing in the world. This is when I actually tell myself, all right, step back.
Uh-huh.
Not everything is as it seems. Just wait to see what unfolds, because not
Mhm.
bad isn't necessarily bad. And so, like, there's things that have happened in my life that at the time it's like, this is horrendous. But then
Uh-huh.
when I actually look back, I'm like, that was the best thing that ever
I
happened
know.
to me.
And it's so weird to say that, right? Because nobody will expect you to hear you saying that later after people even saw what you went through. But it's true. Like there is so much learning in each one of these steps that you need to be humble also, right? I mean, to be able to see that. And
Yes.
humble, compassionate, loving, and the word that I love to use is like reflect on it. I think sometimes we just move too fast from one thing to another that we don't even spend the time to reflect what was the learning lesson from that period of time. And when we really spend that time, and if you ever do therapy or any of those kind of things, you start seeing all the golden nuggets that were in that experience.
Yes, and it's just it's being aware in the moment, because when we actually look back and we think of those times where that was hard and challenging, and
Mhm.
if you're in that space of worry, overwhelm, like emotions that really don't help, they do
Mhm.
not help in
Mhm.
any way. And all that is when you look back and you go, actually, gosh, that was one of the best things that happened. Why did I spend so much time fretting and froing and overwhelm and all of that? So if we can become more aware in the moment that
Mhm.
maybe not everything is as it seems. We may not show up in that moment with that overwhelm and as much stress.
Yes, right. And I think that to me has been probably one of the biggest learning lessons is in the moment, you know, you may be angry, frustrated, upset. And I feel like I have done this in the past where I actually, every single action I took in the moment of overwhelm or frustration or problems, I took actions based on fear, based on anger, based on frustration, based on all those things. And that, at the end of the day, took away, right, from the moment of being fully present, from the actual solution that I was looking for, because the energy was divided between I need to solve this problem, but I'm still angry and I'm mad and I'm frustrated and I'm anxious and I'm all of these. So now when I go through ups and downs, as a business owner, you have your highs, you have your lows, right? I mean, I have learned to be much more neutral and understanding that, yeah, it may be tough, or even when things are super exciting, right? Because it's also very easy to lose your balance when you are is either too exciting or too low, and really finding that middle of the road where you can be more neutral and have the ability to assess what actions to take without being those actions being attached to fear or anxiety or frustration, because I did that in the past, and you know what, there was no payoff for that. If anything, it took away from the moment,
Mm.
and it really kind of like almost contaminated, the whole
Yes.
energy of my life, right? Because then I wasn't being a good mother, I wasn't being a good wife. Whereas now I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. Let's isolate the issue first, and then let's approach it from a perspective that comes from understanding, hope, love, compassion, and just changing the energy that those actions are taken from can be very, very, very transformative.
Yeah, and that's very, aware and soul aligned what you just described, because going back when you make decisions out of fear or in that
Mhm.
kind of scarcity mindset or anything, usually the decisions we make in that space are misaligned.
Uh-huh.
It takes us down a path we don't want. So, what I always say to people, like, if you are in the midst of high emotions, even exciting ones too,
Uh-huh. Hmm.
it's pause,
Uh-huh.
really step back, and it's that more, like you said, neutral, and looking at it from that perspective versus in those high intensity emotions, because they may take us down a misaligned
Hmm.
path.
If anything, and they also take you farther away from where you want to go. And that's kind of what I learned too. It's just like, oh, if I, to your point, right? If I'm aligned in my decision making here, well, very likely I'll continue to be aligned. But if I don't, I'm just going farther and further away. And it takes one decisions, two decisions, three decisions. And then next thing you know, you're so far away that it is really hard to come back to that alignment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, I'm still paying for a decision I made, 20 something years ago. So it's like, sometimes it can be like, haunting. And that was, very misaligned. And so, I mean, we've all had experiences. I mean, where we've been aligned and misaligned. It's
Mhm.
not, we're human. So it's not like striving for, we're always going to be soul aligned 100% of the
Ah,
time.
mhm.
So is there a time um, outside the law or like in business? So thinking of Source 10, where, things didn't go the way you wanted and it was a really tough time and maybe how you got through it and
Mhm.
overcame it?
Yeah, and I think that has to do with the inflow business, right? I mean, sometimes you can have really good years, some years maybe a little slower. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily the year, but just a season. And
Mhm.
having one season that was really slow. I mean, we're a small business, right? So in a small business, everything that happens is like a little exaggerated, right? I mean, you hire one person, big deal.
Yeah.
Someone leaves, big deal, right? I mean, you get one sale, big deal. You don't get the sale, big deal. So that's the beauty and the not so beauty of owning a small business. But in a time of a slow season, I was really getting worried about the future of the company, right? And I remember going back to this idea of like being neutral. I recognize that it hasn't been the first time, but this time felt very different. Like, I mean, our business has some sort of a season, it's kind of seasonal. So I kind of expect that, but this time was worse, right? And I'm just like, oh my God, like what is happening here? So you
Mhm.
start thinking plan B, right? But I was like, no, 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 no. I don't care about plan B because plan B is like, what are we doing here next, right? If some things don't work out. So I committed to plan A and I continued to take every single action that was going to make plan A work. And I kept reminding myself, this is what I meant to do. This video production company was born out of love and it was born out of creativity and imagination and passion. And it's not going to go away. Like, and I just kept telling myself that every single time I doubt myself. And I was like, how can I doubt myself? I have made this work already. It has to work again. So I committed to a very positive self-talk because in those moments, it's not easy to commit to positive self-talk, right? It's very easy to slip into the, but what if this, what if that, and this and that, and the economy, and that, right? And I just decided, no, I'm not going to even think about plan B. I mean, I know financially speaking, right, from the business perspective, rationally speaking, I have to talk about that. However, when I think about how this business was born, it wasn't even creative with a plan in mind, with a strategy and with a business, financial plan or anything like that. So I'm like, if it wasn't born that way, it can live just, out of love and heart. And um, I just kept taking every single action I could to make plan A work, regardless of how I was feeling, regardless of what I wanted, regardless of the fear, regardless of everything. I will say it's one of the times I'm the most proud about the work I did because I was like, I'm not going to listen to the bad self-talk. I'm not going to listen to the news. I'm just going to keep going. And I did it and I could see that it paid off. I mean, it was just, a slow time, but then after that, we recovered really well and things went well. I mean, I just will say showing up was really what made
Mhm.
a difference. And rather than just withdraw and just be like, oh my God, what I'm going to do and being worried about it, I continued to show up. I continued to do what I always did. And it took a little longer to happen, but it did happen, right? Because I did not stop taking the actions to make things work out.
So, and that's a really great example. I'm glad you shared because being soul aligned doesn't necessarily mean life is easy. Like
Uh-huh.
it's just gonna be okay. Once you're soul aligned, money's just gonna flow, and like all of it's just gonna happen, like that. But like I don't know, it's a different hard, like because life. there's challenges, things occur,
Yeah.
there's things outside of us that occur, whether it's the economy or what people want changing because it's generational, or there's innovation that makes other things not be as, um,
Relevant.
yeah. And so it's, it's not that it's always easy because
Mhm.
it can be hard. But what do you see for the, like, for that example? So it was
Mhm.
challenging, you persevered. Would you say you were still soul aligned? And if so, what was the difference there than
Mhm.
if you hadn't been soul aligned?
Mhm. I think when I told myself I create this business out of love, and that's how it started, and it's meant to stay.
Mhm.
So if this business wasn't created out of that and it was created just to go and make the money, just to provide a service that I didn't care for, I feel like it would be having a lot easier to just be like, this is it. I just probably would have quit at that point. But in this case, I just feel like I see how this was born. I see what we can continue to produce. And the world will be missing something if we are not here to keep creating this. I know I'm aligned to my soul. I know my director of photography, he's aligned to his soul, like my team. Like, it's just not like, when you are aligned to your soul, you attract people that may be very aligned to their soul as well, right? So it wasn't just about me, it was about the magic that we bring together. And so I feel like just understanding that was that give me that extra push to just persevere, keep going. And to your point, I'm so glad you mentioned that because it is true. People think like, oh, because I'm aligned to my purpose, my life is going to be easy. Well, we would like that to be, but at the end of the day, we live in an economy that has systems and procedures and things, right? So it doesn't matter how purposeful you are, you still gotta pay the bills, pay taxes, have
Yeah.
insurance and all of those things. So that kind of like, if you were to ask me, takes away some of the fun, but it's part of being a business and being able to share your gifts and your talents with a more wider audience, right? If you don't want to do it that way, well, then you can stay home and try to do it, like kind of hidden, from Uncle Sam. But I mean, that's not going to be that, I will say, enjoyable, and you won't be able to benefit as many in the world as you could if you end up with these systems and all these things to be a well-established business, and that comes with a price, right? So I think that's the part that when you get in a low, you're like,
Mm.
oh my God, I really love the purpose of this, but this is really hard when it comes to, like the other aspects of the business. And I will ask you, Katherine, like how do you talk to your clients and other people about this, right? Because that's kind of like where uh the tire meets the rubber. Is that there's a saying like that? Do you have that a saying like that? Like, what is really interesting to me is you can have all the love and purpose that you want, but at the end of the day, you gotta run a business. And I feel like that's where sometimes misalignment may happen because you got pulled into the business more than the purpose that you originally started with. So what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, that's great because I see it as two sides of the coin. This is why we call it soul aligned strategy. And it's not just about being aligned with your soul and then aligning it to your business. It's then also the other side of the practicality of
Uh-huh.
there's business acumen that you need, there's business strategies that you need, there's the action, like you got to do it. So,
Right.
and where I see is that, I mean, I see businesses that have neither. I see businesses that are maybe stronger on one side of the coin, like they're very so aligned, but they don't have the strategy. So they're kind
Uh-huh.
of like, or they have the strategy, but they're not so aligned. So it's this piece that when you have both sides of the coin working together, so you're soul
Mhm.
aligned and you have the strategy, that results are much greater than
Mhm.
if you didn't, and you're enjoying the journey. So again, not 100% of the time. There's going to be things that you're going to not like doing. Like, do I like
Ah.
sitting through and doing, spreadsheets and all of that? No, but because I'm so aligned and the business is so aligned, it's not as bad as if
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
wasn't. Um, did that answer the
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, no, and I think that's just something that when people are thinking about running their own business, they need to know that, right? I mean, once you run the business, you realize, oh my gosh, it's not just a purpose. Now I gotta do the practicalities of the business, right? When people are about to start a business, and and I'm one of those, right? I'm thinking it's all going to be creativity, it's all
Yeah.
going to be making videos, and that's that's not true, right? I mean, that's part of it, but the percentage of the time that I spend doing that versus running the business as a whole is very different. So
Yeah.
my question for you will be like, how do you keep that soul alignment to still be a big part of the equation, when in reality you can get lost into actually, running the business?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that really you've got to stay very clear about who you are and what you want,
Mm,
because a lot of business owners get very much into the
yeah.
weeds of business, and they're not able to zoom out and beyond the business. And so it's really helping owners to zoom out for who they are and what they
Mhm.
want, but also the business, and then ensuring that that is in alignment with their soul. Because sometimes that can also change and shift in terms of, what it is that you're wanting and what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but great questions. I'm glad that you asked them because I think that it's very, very, very key. And where we start is very much on that clarity, and then it's
Mhm.
alignment, and then it's putting in action. And it's not to say that soul alignment is instantaneous necessarily. I mean, it can take time, but when people start moving towards what it is they really want and have that strategy and they have that clarity and they see where they're going, that in itself is that
Mm.
alignment.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And I think when you talk about clarity, as easy as it sounds, I think it's probably one of the hardest things, at least in my own experience, right? Because you start with in point A, and there is so many points you can go to, right? Like it's so many, and you may have sort of an idea, and then life takes you maybe not necessarily where you were planning to go, right? I mean, like for me, right? I thought we'll be doing mostly Spanish content, where now we do a lot of English content, right? So there was a bit of a difference there. Can we do both now? Yeah. So, well, that's actually pretty cool, pretty good, right? We kind of actually expanded it into what we were doing. But then at some point, right, when I thought like, oh, this is going to be a whole full marketing agency, well, no, we just end up doing video content and some, marketing consulting for Latino market as well. But it's just like, you kind of have to adapt and evolve. And I feel like when you, as you say, when you get too much in the weeds, having that clarity becomes very challenging. And what's next also for the company, right? How do you remain relevant, and how
Yeah.
can you continue to serve your clients the way they need you to serve them? So that clarity, do you have any insights for us as far as like how can we just bring ourselves back to that moment of clarity, even if it's once a day? I'm not saying that we have to be clarity all the time, but once in a while.
Well, I think, the businesses that can really sustain all of the changes and the challenges and the things that happen, not only like externally to the business, but also as the business is growing, that the changes happen. So in terms of people's roles, in terms of the
Mhm.
feel, and it's what I see a lot of businesses and individuals don't do is they do not have a very solid foundation. And that solid foundation is that clarity about who you are, what's important, and where you're going. A lot of people have a kind of know,
I like
but
that.
it's not this really like solid that it becomes a living, breathing thing. So all the decisions are around that. And so when the things are changing, whether it's external to the business, or if it's internal and the business is changing because of growth or because of new product or
Mhm.
pivoting or what it might be, um, it's really being able to go, okay, does that fit in with who we are? And when we know that, just so integrated, it really helps to keep that clarity. But you gotta,
Mhm.
it's also, I say, is that our business helps with that. I mean, a lot of times people need other
Yes.
people to help guide, because we can get very much in the weeds of our own mindset, and so
Yeah.
sometimes it really is important to help someone zoom you out.
Yeah, I mean, I love consultants like you or mentors, right? Because they help you to find clarity in those moments of confusion, and it's not confusion because you made it confusing. It's just because it's a lot of stuff going on in a small
Right.
business, right? I mean, from running the operations to the finances and HR, and then the product you're delivering and customer service and all of those things. So to have a third party coming and calling you out sometimes, right? I mean, and asking the right questions can be super beneficial to at the personal level and also for the company, right? Because
Absolutely.
when you're a small business owner, I mean, I don't want like to say this, but like if your mindset is a little messed up, the business is not going to run greatly, right? Because I mean, you are at the top and you are the leader, and I'm a firm believer like energy is contagious, and if you are clear and aligned and purposeful, well, that will be contagious as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I've got one last question for you, Sandra. If there was one piece of advice, I'm sure there's a lot, but one piece of advice to fellow entrepreneurial business owners, what would
Mm.
that be?
Ooh. This is a long pause because I feel like I'm still asking for insights from other entrepreneurs to learn myself. So for me to be able to give one, um, I would say this word I used earlier, which is the showing up. I feel like
Mm,
that one, for whatever that is, right? I mean, it's either networking, showing up for your employees, showing up for your clients. So like really making it a point to continue to be engaged and participate, right? I mean, I know there are times when we're tired and there are times when you're just like, this is it. I mean, and I know sometimes we have to recognize that. And I have learned to do that as well. I cannot go to one more network event because I'm not going to get anything out of it because I'm too tired or too exhausted, right? But then it's just really being able to show up with intention. Um, so you can really continue to be engaged in the world. I mean, at the end of the day, what we do is for the world, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
not for ourselves. Yes, we want to be there for the money and, because we want to provide to our families. But at the end of the day, like at least in my case, right, the work I do is to share with the world, right? I mean, so companies can have beautiful video that they feel proud of sharing, and they can have a message that could be said in an hour. They can have it done in 2 or 3 minutes through the storytelling that we provide for them. So I feel like, if you stop showing up fully, then the world will be missing on what can you offer to the world with your team.
That's beautiful. That's really nice. Sandra, I really have enjoyed our conversation so much. It has been incredibly colorful, is the word that comes to my mind.
Oh, nice.
And I really thank you for your time. And I'm sure our listeners have really enjoyed it as well. And yeah, I'd love to have you back sometime in the future.
That'll be incredible, Catherine. Thank you so much. And again, thank you so much for opening the space for the work that you do, helping us business owners to reconnect with that soul alignment or find it or discover it, whatever that may be. I think people like you can really, really make people like us in the entrepreneurial world have much more impact, and not just that, but be healthier humans, right? Because when we align our soul, mind, and body, and emotional body as well, is in much better alignment, and so we can be better people to this world. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, Sandra.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks for joining us on the AG45 Soul Aligned Strategy podcast. If you're ready to align your soul with your business, take back your time, and grow with intention, we'd love to connect. Visit accelerategrowth45.com to schedule a call, apply to be a guest, or take the next step toward building a soul-aligned business. At AG45, we believe when business meets value, wealth meets legacy, and time meets freedom, the journey becomes truly enjoyable. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep building your legacy.